Hi, this is Sam Weigel with V1 Rotate, the web series for new and aspiring professional pilots. Today, we're going to continue exploring a topic that I wrote about 2 weeks ago, soft and short runway operations for professional pilots. If you haven't seen it, you can find the previous article on flyingmag.com. I noted that many young pilots today get their private and commercial licenses without ever having flown off of unpaved runways or short ones, or ones that are just short for the density altitude, or ones with obstacles or mountains around. Instead, student and instructor simulate these conditions on long paved runways, just going through the motions without ever experiencing the effects in real-world conditions. This checks the boxes for private and commercial check rides, but I think it shortchanges students a valuable real-world experience. I think the reason that many schools no longer train on short or unpaved runways is for insurance purposes, but the justification is that their students are headed for jets, which uniformly use long paved runways with guaranteed climb performance over obstacles. Small airplane techniques for marginal runways don't really apply. Fair enough, but this is a fickle industry and you never know where your career will take you. There may be some interesting detours on your way to the flight levels. Seeking out training on soft and short operations and mountain flying will make you a better, more well-rounded pilot. And honestly, landing on nothing but long paved runways gets boring after a while. Seeking out small, challenging runways and out-of-the-way places helps to break up the grind of training and time building. Today, I'm going to take you to 3 really cool grass strips up in the Cascades Mountains to give you a taste of real-world soft, short, and mountain flying operations. Now, even though we're taking my tail-dragging Stinson 108, you could easily go to any of these airports in any typical flight school airplane of around 150 horsepower under the right conditions. Now, I'm getting a late start today, and we're not going to be doing all this until the afternoon, which really isn't ideal. Fortunately, it is a pretty cool day, and the highest airport we're going to is about 3,000 feet elevation, which should put our density altitude about 5,500 feet. Performance-wise, we should be fine, especially since I'm keeping things really light today. It'll be just me, my dog Piper, camera gear, a small survival kit, and partial fuel. I've taken absolutely everything that I don't need out of the airplane, and I'd recommend you do that as well when you start exploring shorter runways or those with mountains around. Ounces really do count when we're talking hot and high climb performance. Now, the other reason you should really try to do this sort of flying in the morning is that it's a lot more still. In the afternoon, the katabatic winds get going. It's pretty bumpy. It's a lot less comfortable. It's arguably less safe, especially when you're new, because it makes your flight path less predictable. The other thing is, in the summer, those upslope winds lend themselves towards cumulus overdevelopment, leading to rain showers and thunderstorms. There is some of that predicted for today, so let's get going.
Leisure traffic, Stinson 40128 is departing runway 30. Will be a right downwind departure to the east. Leisure land.
Our first destination is Skykomish State Airport, about 15 miles into the Cascades in a deep valley along Highway 2. Skykomish State is a well-maintained grass strip 2,000 feet long with trees on all sides, which qualifies as short field in my book. If it's been a while since I've done short field work, I will often practice some gliding slow flight and a flare to stall or two to get that feel of being in the groove at 1.2 VSO. The field elevation at Skykomish is only 1,000 feet, but we have some pretty big mountains on both sides, which affects how we fly the pattern. Make the left downwind kind of tight along the ridge, and there's a knob right where I would normally turn base, so we stay high and extend just beyond it. Between the terrain and the trees, you can't really see the runway until you're on base turning final. You just have to visualize the desired flight path and adjust as the visual cues present themselves. When approaching a short field, I like to get down to my final approach speed pretty early and hold that religiously while adjusting power or slipping as needed to maintain my desired glide path. At Skykomish, like a lot of short fields, the best final approach path isn't necessarily straight in. It's perfectly okay to offset for obstacles as long as you have enough margin from stall to get yourself aligned with the runway before touchdown. We're touching down right at stall speed, which puts me right in a 3-point attitude. A tricycle gear airplane would be well tail low. With a truly soft strip, you won't have a problem stopping, and you might add a touch of power after touchdown to aid in elevator authority, keeping the nose wheel from digging in. This runway is pretty firm, but because we touched down at minimum airspeed, we have no problem getting stopped by midfield while barely touching the brakes. Well, Skykomish is just a little piece of airplane heaven. 2,000 foot grass strip, mountains surrounding, it's down in a cool river valley. Now, you might say that because my airplane has the third wheel on its tail, makes it more adapted to this kind of flying than your average flight school Cessna 172 or Piper Warrior. But not really. This field, like most grass strips in the lower 48, is pretty smooth. You can do it in a tricycle gear airplane just fine. And the reality is, the main thing that affects the adaptability for this type of flying is really power, really excess power. This airplane has its original 150 horsepower Franklin engine, and it's very similar in performance to your average flight school Cessna 172 or Piper Warrior. You put much weight in it, you get it hot, you get it high, it's a pretty anemic climber, and that limits its usability for this type of flying. The fact that I can get this airplane in and out of a strip like this means you can do it no problem in a Cessna 172 or a Warrior, as long as you pay attention to how much weight you're bringing in, how hot the day is, and so on. 2,000 feet with trees on a warmish day is a lot more marginal on takeoff than on landing in most training aircraft. This is where keeping the aircraft as light as possible is so important. Run the performance numbers. If it's close, wait until it cools off or the wind is more favorable. Now, soft field takeoff technique and short field technique differ a bit, so what do you do when it's a soft short field? If this was truly soft, rough, or rocky, I'd put more emphasis on getting the third wheel off quickly and lifting off as slow as possible. This is a pretty firm grass runway though, so I'm emphasizing low drag, lifting off at an efficient airspeed that lets me accelerate to VX quickly, and then climbing over the trees at that. Here at Skykomish I have a nice little offset groove through the trees that would be a help if I was heavier. Right now I have a decent headwind, but also note that I'm taking off downhill and downriver. If there was no wind or even a bit of tailwind, that's the way you usually want to take off in the mountains.
Now, if we were doing a perfectly stock pattern here, we would be turning our left crosswind shortly, but you can see there's some pretty big hills out there to our left. So what I'm actually going to do is get up and over this next ridge. There's a nice wide turnaround spot. So I'm just going to climb steeply till I get there, and then we can turn around and head up towards Stevens Pass.
Our next destination is Lake Wenatchee State Airport, just under 2,000 feet elevation, but to get there we have to climb up over 4,000 foot Stevens Pass and cross a 5,000 foot ridge. You can see the cumulus are definitely developing as the day goes on, but no showers yet and cloud base is still high with good viz underneath. The katabatic winds are kicking and there's a lot of turbulence with some good up and down drafts, so we're giving the terrain a good clearance margin and crossing this ridge at a 45-degree angle. I'm following roads and watersheds to the greatest extent possible because there aren't a lot of great places to land here if we lose our engine.
Alright, so we definitely have turf, but mixed with a bit of dirt here. So I think I'm going to go take a close look and drag the strip before I commit to landing.
Anytime I'm landing at an unpaved strip, particularly one that I haven't been to recently, I like to get a good look from overhead, and if there's any doubt about its condition, I do at least one close inspection pass. Lake Wenatchee appears to have grass, then dirt, then grass. I can see a few rocks on the inspection pass, but they don't look too bad, so I'm going to land on the first patch of grass on runway 9 and roll through the dirt section.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a rough field, not gonna lie.
Shortly after we land, a Cessna 182 peels into the traffic pattern, and he soon has his own bumpy and quite dusty landing. Happens to the best of us. The pilot's a super nice guy. He's in town for a motorcycle rally, so we talk dirt bikes a bit, and then when we leave, he's nice enough to film our departure and subsequent last inspection pass. The sharper eyed among you may have noticed me banging the tail in that first clip. I tried to make the airplane fly a little bit before it was ready in my haste to get airborne before the dirt patch. When the density altitude gets up there, sometimes you just gotta be patient.
Alright, we're getting up to VX here.
Well, now I'm off to Wenatchee for gas, but that's a long paved runway. That's kind of boring. So let's just skip ahead to our third grass strip of the day, Teton State. We're getting pretty late in the afternoon now, and as we work our way southwest from Wenatchee to Rimrock Lake, there's quite a bit more overdeveloped cumulus, quite a few rain showers, and my ADS-B weather even shows a thunderstorm near Mount Rainier. Our destination is still clear though, and there's a good escape route back through Snoqualmie Pass. The last stretch over Bethel Ridge and down into the Teton Valley is really gorgeous. Teton State Airport is easy to find because it lies just beyond the aptly named Goose Egg Mountain. The terrain is a major consideration here. The easiest approach to the 2,500-foot turf runway is to the north from over the lake, but a low go-around is not advised in this direction due to a low rise east of Goose Egg, as well as a ridge on the peninsula to the west. If that's a concern, a tight approach to runway 20 is possible, and that gives you an out over the lake. Either way, this is not a place for standard traffic patterns. I'm flying out to the wide part of the lake, turning around, and then making my approach over the cove that leads to the airport. You can't see the runway until you're about a half mile out, but that's far enough out to decide if you're in a position to land, with enough space and altitude to go around if you're not. Teton State ends up being my favorite airport of the day, maybe my favorite airport in Washington so far. It's pretty, it's well maintained, there's camping facilities, there's the lake at the end of the runway with a nice little beach. I'm definitely going to come back here airplane camping with Don and Piper. This time though, the weather chases me out before too long. Density altitude is nearly 5,000 feet as I take off over the lake and immediately run into rain showers. The conditions stay VFR though, and there's decent weather over White Pass and into Nisqually watershed. Skirting Mount Rainier, we break out into beautiful sunshine west of the Cascades, a really nice way to wrap up a beautiful 4-hour tour that showcases some of the best grass strips of the area. I hope this video gave you a taste of some of the cool stuff you can do on soft, short, and mountainous airports, and maybe provided you with the motivation to go out and get some real-world training. You don't need a carbon cup for most of these places, not even a Stinson. A 172 will do the trick quite well. But you do need the knowledge and experience to operate safely. Thanks for watching V1 Rotate, and for more great content for new and aspiring professional pilots, join me here at flymag.com every first and third Friday of the month.